Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. I am here with Kim Coffin, who is a trauma-informed somatic empowerment and sexuality coach, and also the founder of Get Your Sexy Back. Kim teaches singles and couples how to reconnect to their body, activate their turn-on, heal heartbreak and shame at a body-based level, to reclaim the places they've been disempowered in so they can come back into their body and step into their unapologetic power through sacred sexuality. I am so excited to have you here, Sister Goddess Kim, and welcome in.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And we were just chatting right before we hopped on here. I have to give a shout out for Kim's earrings because they are gorgeous, and maybe later I can post in the comments and stuff when we can find the person who made them and share their information as well. But we have some beautiful labia earrings in the house. So I had to point those out. And Kim, welcome. I'd love for you just hopping in to share a little bit of your story, or a lot of your story, whichever direction you want to go, but just how you got to what you're coaching now and your journey with all of the things. And I'm curious because we met through Mama Gina's stuff. So I'm curious of what trainings and all the things you've done. So please dive in wherever it feels good for you and let us know like your path to where you are today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm thinking, what year did we meet? We met probably in 2019.
At Mastery. Yeah, we met
2019 Mastery, right? Because I did 2018 and 2019. So I wasn't sure which year. I'm like, which year did I meet? Second year. Yeah. And my journey actually started a little earlier than that, even in 2017, specifically around coming back into body, into sexuality. But kind of, I'll try and give a short version, but also detail to kind of pinpoint and show what happened before.
Oh, take as much time as you want.
Oh, yeah. There's so much details in there. Excuse me. So around 2017, probably 2013, actually to 2017, everything in my life started like compiling. Like there was broken ankle and surgery and couldn't walk and a big kerfuffle with my mother in there. And it even started a little earlier, around 2006, actually, when my daughter was born. And I just started seeing patterns, and she was my third child, but it was my first girl. And seeing patterns of how I was with my daughter, but yet how my mother wasn't. And things started to really kind of come about. And then towards 2013, leading up to 2017, all of a sudden, basically a teenage sexual assault by my mom's husband, still current husband, came to about in my body. Like literally my body was screaming at me, and it had been 27 years. So it'd been a damn long time. And it wasn't that I hadn't told my mom. I actually told my mom. I woke up in the middle of the night to my stepfather sexually assaulting me at like 14 and a half. And I told my mom the next morning. I waited till I went to work and I told her, and it was so hard, but I did it. And I knew it was the right thing to do. And she believed me right away. But then a couple hours later, she met me at school. Well, she also sent me to school, which was another thing, having a daughter going, you did what? Pardon? Any child, right?
Yeah.
She met me at school and told me to hop in the front seat of the car because my stepfather was waiting for me out front to basically confront me and deny everything. And my mom hopped in the back seat, and my stepfather literally went off on me and told me, how could I think he would do such a thing? And my mother just sat there silent. So from what turned to a traumatic event to, oh my gosh, my mom's going to listen to me, turned to a worse traumatic event. And I very quickly learned right then and there, I actually remember making the decision in my brain, oh my gosh, I'm on my own here. There's no point even discussing this anymore. Like done. Like walls went up, things went over, everything collapsed in and locked. And I went around on my life. Like my friends knew, different people in my life knew. My husband ended up marrying 21 and a half years ago now, like something like that. We got married about 10 years later. He knew, and lots of other people knew. And my friends knew, but I never discussed it again with my mom. My mother was in my life. My stepfather was in my life. It was really awkward and uncomfortable, but yet I stuffed it down. I repressed it. And as I started to have babies, nursing on my left side of my breast, where I specifically was actually woke up to being sexually assaulted on, I couldn't nurse. every time I would have nurse on the left side, I'd have flashbacks. I actually had mastitis in the first baby 3 times on the left breast. And I never saw the connection for years. Like my body was screaming at me through all of these years. My oldest is 21 and a bit now, 21 and a half now. So all of these years, my body was screaming at me and telling, like, obviously trying to get me to listen. And I wasn't, essentially. I was still being the good girl, being the good daughter, putting my head down, sucking it up, pushing it away, stuffing it down. And around 2017, everything came to a head. Literally, everything came to a head. I'm gonna clear here for a second. So yeah, everything came to a head. The Me Too movement happened, and I was reading all of them. I was searching for more to read on Facebook. I was like, wow, these women are amazing. These are powerful, powerful. I can't believe they're doing this. This is incredible. And it really did inspire me and made me feel, I don't even know what it was, just a little bit more connected, a little bit more grounded. My voice likes to do this when I start going into public speaking. Mm-hmm. It's still one of the ways that my body likes to keep the score and remind me, and something that I keep playing with, but it goes away in a little bit, I promise. So I read all these posts, and 2 days later, I was like, yeah, there's no way I could post mine. Like, there's no way. It's been 27 years. I need to suck it up. But my body was screaming. I was exhausted. I was in adrenal fatigue. I had so many hormone problems, so much low back problems. Like, everything in my body was literally screaming at me to listen. About 3 days later, after the Me Too, I finally was driving for a long, long drive, about 5-6 hours to Ottawa. And I was like, screw it. And I pulled over for gas, and I quickly posted, like, I'm talking a 2-line Me Too. And I was like, what? Closed the phone, shut it away, put it away, and kept driving. And a couple hours later, I had like a whole pile of support that I really didn't expect. And one of the biggest ones was actually my uncle, who first put a really angry face. And I was like, oh shit, I'm in trouble. Isn't that funny? My body went to, I'm in trouble. Fuck, now I've stirred the fucking hornet's nest here. Like, I'm in trouble. He's also a retired police. He ran all of Peel Region in the airport, and was superintendent in Peel, and a whole pile of different things. So he's a really high up, was inspector and all of these things. And he's retired. And I was like, shit, I'm in trouble. And he was like, it's never too late. And I was like, what? I did not expect that. And we ended up talking for probably half my next drive back from Ottawa to home. And the support I received was incredible. And that just propelled me to start sharing, reaching out, started my journey. I'd actually already signed up for the School of Womanly Arts about 2 months before. And I don't even know how I got the email. It just came to me, and I was in a really low point, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm doing this. And I had 3 young kids, still young teens, in tons of rep sports in school. And I was like, I'm just going. So all of this, I can see now how it all played in and how it all connected. And that really just started my journey in pretty well the Me Too movement on, of deep, deep dive into reconnecting with my body, with my sexuality, deep healing, speaking my truth, claiming my truth, all of it.
Thank you.
That was a short story.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing all of that. And I know there's an element of, and it sounds like in your experience, and I know for sure for me in my experience, that there's a huge element of, like you're saying, with your throat and your voice, of your truth, and being able to share that, and never knowing how it's going to be received by other people, even as adults. And I think a big piece, and this is going to be so healing for any survivors of sexual assault, or anything really having to do with that kind of feeling of being attacked in a female body, or repressed, where just sharing stories like this, where it's so healing to, in the Me Too, around like, oh, I'm not the only one, and like there are other people who understand what that feels like. And even your initial fear of when you saw that emoji that your uncle posted before reading it, where it's like, oh no, I'm the one that did something wrong because I'm speaking out. And there's, I think, so much and I know you work with shame too, but where there is a shame around like, I'm going to be the one, because I speak out, that's going to be causing the problem, because it's like airing the dirty laundry, so to speak. And and to your point around it living in the body, it's so interesting. And this is like, I think my highest interest in a lot of this coaching world and inner work kind of stuff is the body work. And how did your all of your symptoms that you were having prior to doing this work shift? Because it sounds like now it's like night and day.
Yeah, so fast. Like that first experience weekend in 2017 when we were in New York in School of Womenly Arts, doing hip circles was hard. I was like, ouch. But yet as the weekend went on, like my hip flexors were locked and my hips were locked and all of these muscles were locked. And as the weekend went on, everything started to loosen up. And I realized the week after, like my back pain was gone. And a lot of different things. Like I continued through School of Womenly Arts for 2017 and 2018 and 2019, many different programs. And I kept getting unlockings. And I also was continuing also working with Layla. I started with Layla in 2018 as well. And I was starting to use Jade Ag and starting to do the reconnecting and the healing and the de-armoring and the releasing there. And everything kind of fed into the other. Like there's so much body healing, so much. It goes into body love. It goes into pain. And more will come up as we talk, but
yeah, of course. Yeah. And what was your experience like of your sexuality prior and after, as far as, obviously culturally, we grew up in a world where it's like nobody talks about it, and if you enjoy it then you're a slut, or like all of those things. So how was that experience for you in the before and after Layla and Mama Gina?
Oh yeah, sheesh.
Well, I know it's like a big question, but
I want to say like shut the fuck down. Like literally, there was nothing there. I thought it was there.
Yeah.
Obviously, like I thought it was there. But shut the fuck down. I used to say when I first realized that other people were feeling sensation and pleasure, I'm touching my body now as I do this, in their body, I was like, you feel that? Like, what are you feeling? Like I actually was walking around either boobs up or neck up. There was no feeling. I couldn't feel. I was very numb, very disconnected. I would have flashbacks that I would just, nope, not thinking about that right now, and try and use fantasy or something else to get away from the thought that was coming up. Whole pile of disconnection. Oh my gosh, whole pile. When it was having babies, it was a different task. It was like, no, we're doing this to have babies, right? But in between, it had to be drunk. It had to be on something to actually disconnect and detach away from the pain, the trauma, the shame, the numbness, and actually be able to get into my body and feel anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah. And after, where do I start?
Like sober, lights on. Let's do the things.
Sober, lights on, leading pleasure practices, sometimes weekly, dropping into playing with energy, having the most outrageous orgasms ever. Don't I better call it O's on Facebook. You never know. We'll get censored.
I know, right? We'll see what happens.
And starting actually when we first landed in 2019 in Creation in Mexico, that was my other program. I started having energetic orgasms that day. Awesome. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like we're talking, sitting here talking with you, having lunch, walking to another thing. And I was like, oh, and my goddesses were like, did you just have another one? I'm like, yes, I can't stop them. I literally had this like awakening happen. Just the timing, the way it lined up, me saying yes, me speaking my truth, owning what I want, all of my desires, all of that. So many. And then I continued on to working with Layla Martin as well for the last, it started 2018, specifically deep dive, like it says 650 hours, but we're talking way over 1,000 now of deep study in sex, love, relationships, female sexuality, tantric sex, relationship transformation, all of this yumminess. And I do walk my talk. Like, this is the stuff that I use every single day with me, by myself, with my partner, with my clients. It's like,
So juicy. I love it.
delicious.
So for those in this group that don't know what an energetic O is,
Oh,
I would love for you
yeah.
to share maybe a little bit about what that feels like, what the concept of that is. Because I feel like this group is a little bit newer to the Mama Gina, Layla, Martin crowd. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And even just to back up a little bit, like, there's so many more O's that you don't even know, right? Most women are aware of clitoral, most, but not all. There is G spot, A spot, cervix, like deep, deep womb, full body, nipple, neck, like toes. Like, you can have any kind, as I talk about these, my body,
I know
just
I'm
the
all like,
energy starts
yeah, me too.
cycling.
I'm like, I'm
And
here
it
with you.
starts
So I'm like, I love
looping. And
it.
if I let it, I'd be like, okay, that was good. It just keeps coming. There's so much more. And, some people might be like, oh, great, we're just talking about O's, like, no big deal. But it's not just the O's themselves. It's literally what comes with it. There's this connection to source. There's this connection to self. There's this knowing that no matter what, I'm fucking good. Like, it's locked in my body, in my soul, in my grounding, even if the world falls apart around me. Hello, pandemic. I've
Yeah.
actually been the best sometimes ever in this pandemic. I have loved coming home more into my body and being more with myself and with my practices and with my clients, and really just living in more of a sensory, quieter world.
Yeah, absolutely. And this ties in really sweetly to the turn on aspect, because I think a lot of the time when people think of turn on, they're like, oh, it's just about sex, like being sexually aroused. And it's like, no. What Kim was
No.
just embodying and talking about was this turn on of your entire being, of being connected to self and source, and having that create the vital energy that is our life force energy. So that sexual energy is actually the life force energy that creates babies, the drive to have babies. And really, I think of it as like the muse that we connect into for whatever things. But how has this way of turn on changed your life in regards to how you spend your days? I know you spoke a little bit around this with like your clients and different things, but how is that sense of being in your body and being turned on really shifted how you live your life?
It shifted everything. Like, I used to be very angry. Like, I see that now, and very frustrated and exhausted and literally not happy. Constantly, feeling like nothing was working. So, sexuality and pussy literally to me is like this fast, quick portal to connecting to who you are. But then from there, we can start to do deep, deep healing work, when we can start to connect to body and feel body, and use wherever we feel the safest or the most energized or the most potent to hold the pieces that don't in our body, because our body literally, as I was saying earlier, keeps the score. We can start to do this deep healing, and it's like these layers. So it's really changed my life. It's changed my relationships. It's changed the relationships with my children. It's changed the relationships I have with myself, the way that I show up, the way that I'm seen, the way that I speak my truth, all of it, all of it, all of it, all of it.
I love it.
The way I love myself.
Yeah. That's, I
And the
think, one of the
confidence.
biggest piece
Yeah.
is like that being like, I love my pussy. Like, I love
Yeah. And
my
it's not just
body
pussy anymore. In the
and
beginning, it was only
connection.
pussy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just pussy anymore. It's myself, my core, my essence, my truth, my purpose, my everything. Yeah. In the beginning, pussy was all I could hold on to. It was like, okay, this is cool. I can't let this go. And that allowed me to do the other healing levels on top of it.
Yeah. It was the portal once again. Yeah,
Yes.
I love it. I love it. And I love this conversation. And I experienced sexual abuse when I was a child, and I actually repressed it and didn't remember it until I was 27. And but the flashbacks, when they happen and like came in, it's like it's interesting how the body holds things until sometimes we're ready to like process them or hold them or whatever. But I know for me personally, looking back, I can see how me always feeling uncomfortable in my body or always wanting to hide my truth, and how it showed up for me in my sexuality, even, it's like late teens, early 20s, and how much that changed after I started doing this type of work as well. For anyone that is listening that has experienced, whether it's repression, sexual abuse, however it is that they are feeling like religious trauma
Oh, yeah,
around their
it's a real thing.
around their
Combination.
of all of and or all the things,
Yeah.
where they feel so uncomfortable about their sexuality and even maybe just their body. What are a couple things that you would recommend for them? Just, like little, not like full in-depth tools, they can come find you for trainings and that kind of stuff for it, but
Yeah.
just in like, for those who are like so still in like that, almost like a shame shell around like clutching their pearls, and like, oh, like even words might like, like saying the P word. I know for me, even at the
Yeah.
beginning, I'd be like, oh my God, they said that. What are some things that you would help them play with their edges around that?
Yeah. But one of the biggest things I still would go back to is get in community, get support, because you can't do it on your own. You just can't. So some of the things that you can practice on a regular basis, you still want to do it in community, but drop into your body. And see, that's the thing. Many of us, when we are dealing with that shame and trauma, we're like, drop in your body. Like, I'm in my body every day. What the heck are you talking about?
Yeah.
So that's why you can be guided to go a little bit deeper into what does that mean and how does that mean? But slowing down, taking care of yourself, self-care, dancing. You can start, one of my favorite practices, and one of many of my clients as well, is after a shower and a bath, like picking your favorite lotion and butter and like applying it to every inch of your body every single day. That one is huge. Breast massage is another really, really, really beneficial one. You start actually with open flat palms, and I like to put a song on, a 5 or 6 minute song. It doesn't need to be long. In the Taoist tradition, there's actually a point in our hand that connects with our pericardium, which is very heart opening. And literally we start going down on the outside and up on the inside, and you can just do this with nice flat palms going around and down for the first half of the song, and then flip it and go the other way. If you have any unhealthy breast tissue in your breast, you don't want to go the second way, which is up on the outside, down on the inside. It's energy building in the Taoist tradition as well. So technically you'd be adding energy to unhealthy tissue. So you don't want to do that. But having a 5-minute breast massage a day is very heart opening. It'll help to melt down that wall that we definitely hold inside, locking intimacy, locking out love, all of these things, shame, and is really, really turning on. It's really, really libido increasing. It's really, really yummy. It's really nourishing. Like if you're stressed as fuck and something nasty has happened, a 5-minute breast massage can feel like you're being held in your mama's arms like you wish you were, whether you were or you weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually in our program with Julia Wells is when I got a lot more into, because she recommends that practice too, and I was just like, oh, why haven't I been doing this more? And it's interesting because the first thing that came up for me, and actually my best friend during Mama Gina's program, is having these really interesting conversations with women around their breasts, and how a lot of women never touch their boobs. And so this
as I'm like grabbing them.
I know, we're both like, yeah.
That's also why I love the pandemic. I don't wear bras anymore.
Me either. I'm there with you, sister. Yeah.
And breast massage will perky them up. If you do it every day for a month, you'll be like, they're higher.
That's awesome. Oh, I love that information. But this sense of having that touch where it's connecting you to your body, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like sexual, because that's also something you can play around with your partner too, is like, hey, like fun thing for them to even try, where it's not having to lead into anything and just this like connection piece. So I love that. That's really powerful.
I know for a lot of women though, even a kiss, especially a breast massage, they're afraid it will lead into something.
Mm-hmm.
So start with yourself.
Yeah.
It starts with yourself. Your own sexuality and your own pleasure has to start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And how have you seen this? Because if you are shut off or shut down in certain areas of your life, how do you see that this has had a ripple effect, like in all other areas of your life, or how it can for your clients as well?
It does everywhere. It does in your relationships, asking for what you want, in speaking your boundaries and holding them and asking them to be held, even with your kids, which can be super tricky because you want to give them everything, of course. It does in your business. Like that's the huge one. Most people, I've even been playing with this one recently, don't need a business coach when they're doubting themselves and not feeling confident and don't know what to do and all of this. They really just need to come home into their body. They really just need to connect with themselves and their truth and their source. And then they're able to be seen. Then they're able to hold their boundaries. Then they're able to price themselves the way that they desire. They feel great. They show up confident. They're magnetic. So it shows up in everything. It's all connected. And I've been saying this for a while too. Like how you show up in the bedroom is how you show up in your life. It's how you show up in your business. It's how you show up in your relationships. It is all connected.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm like, preach. I feel like you just took me to church. Yes,
Ooh.
it's so true too. And there's this thing I've noticed about women like yourself and women who do this kind of work, where whether it's online or in conversations or something, there's just, it's like there's something about this person, and I feel like when a woman is turned on in that way, there is, whether it's magnetic or charismatic, but there is a certain energy of this air of confidence or certainty, or however you want to call it. But I find that being around women who are very attuned to this hold a certain power and ground within themselves, and it radiates and it attracts people. And it's not from like an arrogant or like a manipulative or anything like that. It's just more of this connection. I think that's the word I'm looking for. It's this interconnection. And like you're saying, of how it's like, I also agree in the work that I do as well, that it's like, you don't need another business coach. It's like, you need to like come home to yourself and be able to like stand in your truth and that kind of a thing. So this is like such a powerful thing, especially for the Sacred, Sexy, Shameless group, where pretty much everyone in here is like coaches or entrepreneurs or CEO, healer people, and really tuning into this as a way to stand in their like power, sit in their throne as the queen that they are, the goddess, whatever term you want to use.
All of it.
Yeah, but it's like, I love it in having conversations with you and other women like this, where it's getting to celebrate that and not, I actually would love to hear your take on really getting, coming back to where you're talking about doing this in community versus alone. That's something I've noticed a lot of women who are leaders often feel like they either have to go it alone, or it's harder for them to find community around other people who are like-minded, and or they get so judged and attacked for being in their sexuality and their power. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on either your own personal experiences with that, or how you've come to find healing around that. Because I find women can still, I feel like women who aren't trained in this kind of stuff can take down other women that aren't on the, like there's just a lot of,
that's what
especially
we're trained
with
to do.
Yeah, exactly.
That is what we are conditioned and trained to do. So there's a few things on that.
Yeah.
And going back to the magnetism piece, that's not just for these women in power and leadership. Like it is in every single one of us, man, woman, non-binary, all, fancy hair on my face. It is in all of us. So it's all available to us. We just need to reconnect to it. And the piece on in community, there's definitely women wounds, healing wounds in community, feeling like you don't have any friends, feeling like you don't fit in, feeling like you're not enough, all of this. And that is also what gets healed when you go into your body, whether you're working privately with a coach or whether you are working in a group. So yes, it's scary, and it's never as scary or as hard as the moment right before you say you're going to do it. That's when you're like, blah. But once you're in it, it's not that hard because you actually are seen and held. Like how I put the two words together, you're seen and held. And that is also where the growth work is. So when something blows up, something doesn't happen, you get to see how you can hold and trust yourself and come back into your body. And that's where you're building more evidence and more trust and more safety in your body, proving to yourself that you can hold it. And you really can. You really, really can. So there's a lot of deep healing to be done in community. And this deep work, I never could have done it on my own, ever, never, not even reading a book. It wouldn't have, it would have touched it. 1%.
Yeah.
Really? Like if you read Pussy, which I love, the book Pussy by Regina, Mama Gina, Regina, it's amazing. But then when you have been through the work and you read the book, you're like, oh, I could keep listening to this because it means so much more to me. But the first time I read it, it was 1%.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much more. And that's the embodiment piece out of the head. You can't read it. You have to feel it. You have to live it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, I love that you spoke to that in that community, because Mama Gina has created, and I think Layla Martin too, has created such an amazing community of where you get to go live it real time. So when you talk about like going and flirting with everything and flirting with life and flirting with your friends and that experiences versus just reading it in the book, or you know, all of the other tools and practices that I'm sure you've learned over this, where it's like you're getting to actually play with it in real time versus reading about it.
Yeah. And you can do that with private coaching and you can do that with group coaching. You can do it with both. You know, there's something beautiful to online community, being able to reach all over the world.
Yes. Yeah.
That,
Absolutely.
yes, in person is a little different, but it's not as easy to access right now, or regular cost-wise as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you can still reach it online.
Yeah, thank God for Zoom and Facebook and all the platforms. Yeah. And in your experience with, you know, you talk about healing your heart, healing sisterhood wounds with this, I'll call it sex magic, the sexuality, the turn on, connecting to source. What has your experience been, or even maybe with clients you've worked with around using jealousy or envy, or when you yourself see a woman that's like, I wish, you know, like,
yeah,
I used to have those moments prior to working with Mama Gina. Now I'm like celebrating that woman, be like, how can I embody like what she's doing? So it completely shifted how I deal with that. But what has been your experience of using other women who you may be jealous of or envious of, or however that shows up, and turning that into turn on, or how you alchemize that? Because I think that would be very helpful for anyone listening too.
There's a couple pieces to this too. So one, when you're jealous and you're envious and you're like, that is really just indicating there's something there you desire. That's your body going, hello, listen. And we're not taught to listen to those, right? We're taught to push those down and not listen to anything that our body would say. We have to be smart and do this and sit pretty and all of these rules. So when you're feeling that, that's the time to slow down and listen. So you could start to journal on it. What's here for you? Like, what is literally showing up? What is it that they desire? Is it something you desire? Is there something in there? So there's that piece. And then you were talking a little bit more about the healing piece of it as well, because there is definitely, you know, somatic pieces that live in our body. So inner child pieces that have told us that that's not safe to have, or that's not, whatever it may be. It's very different for every single client. We work through those layers together when we're doing coaching and stuff together, because we may say that we want that, but when we dive in, we realize that our body's reacting in a way or another. Say it's solar plexus, just above navel kind of thing showing up, and it's really heavy and gooky and uncomfortable. That's when I actually go in and work with a client to go, okay, can we talk to this piece? What's going on in here? What does it need? Does it remind you of anything? Is there any past experiences here? Generally, these are inner child pieces, and that's where we can find and do the really deep healing, because you might find that they don't need anything other than to be seen that they're scared right now. And then when we were talking earlier about connecting to source and pussy and all of this, Then I use specifically that area a lot. Some people use their heart, some people use their hands. It's very different, but you can tap into a higher source, a higher part, energy part in your body, and bring it in to actually hold this piece that never got the love that it wanted, that never got the safety that it got wanted and desired and deserved, to be honest. So there's all of these pieces in speaking our truth and being seen in our voice. And I know I've rambled on there a little bit. I forgot totally what the question was.
Okay, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's perfect. And that's where, in speaking to this inner child work, I used to get really jealous. When I had a boyfriend, I would get like super, super jealous. And it wasn't until I did this work to understand that the jealousy actually stemmed from a deep, deep fear of abandonment, because I'd experienced so much abandonment from my real dad and my first stepfather. And when I realized that it was from, oh my God, this person, like that other, whether it was flirting or whatever was happening, triggered in me like they're gonna leave and I'll never, and it was so unconscious. And when I use those types of tools to shift that within myself, it completely changed the way that I view, even when I start to get jealous, instead of hating myself for it and trying to like not think about it, not talk about it, because it was embarrassing for me. It was just like, I don't know why I feel like that. And it was just awful. So it completely like brought in so much more compassion and like practices that I can use in the moment, instead of like making it really uncomfortable for my boyfriend and whoever probably was involved with that. And with that being said, in the work that you do, you work with not only singles, but you work with couples as well. What are some of your fun, whether it's Tantra or different things that maybe you notice that comes up in couples more, how this work helps couples heal or maybe even stay together?
That's a huge one. I've had a bunch of calls in the last week with different couples. And what do I notice that helps them stay together?
Or if you've noticed certain things about these practices that have helped them deepen their relationship.
Definitely.
Or...
So, okay, that lands. And I'm like, ooh, what am I going to say there? So there's something generally in most relationships that has broken down safety. It's broken down trust, or we never had it. Like in my experience, I never had it. So my walls were up so tight, even though I've been married 21 plus years and together 25. I really wasn't allowing that full trust, safety, and holding even in my marriage of that long. So there's definitely always pieces of trust and safety that we don't feel in our own body. And then also we don't feel in our relationship. So there's a kind of a 2-for-1. I like to actually work with even my couples, yes, together in couple coaching twice a month, but I also like to work with my couples singly on the second week of each month, which is fabulous because they get to go deeper into their body, into their sexuality, into whatever healing pieces that need to come up that maybe wouldn't come up in a couple session because the other couple talks more or they don't feel safe to be seen in that. It's interesting, like even for me, I feel very, very safe to be seen and held in my deepest of depths now with almost any goddess or most people in groups that I'm in, because I've learned to trust myself in those. But very different when I go to be seen that way in front of my husband. Very different. There was something for years holding on that it was like, well, I wasn't like this in the beginning. So why is he going to be okay with this now? Like there's definitely that fear of abandonment that's going to show up, right? So there's these pieces that we get to work through and heal and work on, but there's such deep, incredible healing in couples when we are focusing on what we both desire, when we're increasing the communication tools, we're increasing the intimacy tools, the sensuality, the sexuality tools, like all of these together, all of a sudden our inner child pieces are feeling seen, they're feeling safe, they're feeling loved, they're feeling held, like they belong, and we start to show up differently, very differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I think what you just said can be so healing and probably a breakthrough for someone that I think a lot of people think when they're like, we're not having sex, so we need to go to a sex coach. They think they need to learn some tool or trick, like, or position to like have a better sex life or whatever. But in reality, a lot of and all of it is inner work, holding space and slowing down and actually being present with the partner and building trust and consent and rebuilding that even, and like all of these different things. So hopefully that can take, if there's any fear or hesitation for people that are like, oh God, especially for women, that's like, we're just going to go and they're going to tell my husband another position, or, like,
No,
I think
not
there's
at
a
all.
stigma around that. So,
Yeah. And consent not only with each other, consent with our own bodies, because many women have no clue there's consent with their own bodies because they are so disconnected they can't even tell what their body desires.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I work with that too. It's really important of learning that.
Yeah. And that is, I think that piece of consent, whether it's, with themselves or not even knowing what they can say yes or no to, there's a lot of women that are in our culture brought up to think that, you just have to have sex with your partner because that's what you're supposed to do in order to like have a happy marriage. And even if you don't want to, or faking orgasms or whatever the thing is,
numbness.
A lot of numbness.
So they just fake it and or hurry up and get it over with, or there's a stray hair there and they don't speak up and say anything. It's like, I've gave that analogy of literally it festers and festers and festers, and like, you can't sit for a week, like you can't do that. But those are the same kind of things that happen in our lives when we're not able to speak our truth and hold our boundaries. And there's so much shame layered on there, whether you have experienced any assault ever in your life, just alone, like the social shame from that you've learned from teachers, from sex ed, from church, from what people didn't say, like that alone it's so hurtful and so painful. So there's a lot to be done in there. And honestly, I want to go back to the couple piece. I didn't do the work in couple in the beginning. I did 3+ years on my own work. Then I brought in the couple work. It really does start with us. Yes, you can do the couple work and you can do it at the same time, but depending on how much work you've already done, it really does start with you.
Yeah, always. Yeah. Amazing. Awesome. Well, this has been juicy and so powerful. And Kim, I'd love for you to share what you got going on in your world right now, in your coaching practice, and where people can find you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I have a couple of private coaching spots still open, at least as of now. I have a few people looking at them, and a couple specifically. It's funny, and we were talking about that in the next couple of days. But hey, reach out. There will be a wait list as well forming after that. And I have a super juicy program that is launching in February. We start on February 28th. This is the first time I've announced it. So I wasn't sure if I was going to say so, but why not? It's actually called Own Your Own Your Power.
I love it. I love it. And that's a group program?
It will be a group program, 8 weeks, and super juicy of really just starting to get into your body and own the power that exists by doing so.
I love it. Well, Kim, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.